First, on the front pocket lining, which is a square, so it doesn't really matter where you end up putting your line, but you can pick it, especially if you have a directional fabric. Here we're going to need a mark, a line across, which is where we're going to stitch to attach the zipper. We're going to put a line at 3/4 of an inch. Next, on the two side panels, we are going to put a line 1/4 inch from the bottom on the wrong side. And choose one that is going to be the side that ends up getting the rivet, and we are going to center a strip of Decoville or similar right here, about 1/4 inch down. So right about there. And I will fuse that piece. Then on the exterior, so here if you're using vinyl, you're going to want to use a removable marker. On the side that has the notches, we're going to draw a line across at 1/2 inch. And then on your top panel, and again, if you're using a directional fabric, you want to make this, all of these marks are going to be on the bottom, on what's going to be the bottom. So first you want to make a small mark right in the center. This is 10 inches wide, so we're just going to draw a mark right at the 5-inch mark. And then on the sides, you're going to make a mark 1 inch up from the bottom corner. Do that on both sides. Now we're going to start forming the front pocket. You're going to take your exterior main panel, your 8-inch zipper, and your pocket lining panel that has the stitch line drawn on it. So first what you want to do is, with your exterior main panel right side up and the line drawn on the top, you're going to put the zipper down, right side down, and I like to put it with the pull to the right. If you'd rather have it on the other side, then you're going to want to reverse the zipper direction in all the other steps as well. And what you want to do here is line up the top of the zipper tape with that line that you drew and clip in place. And when you get close to the pull, you're going to want to move it out of the way so you don't end up warping the zipper tape, because you might end up getting a bumpy zipper. And then you're going to want to base stitch this with just a 1/8 inch base stitch from the edge of the zipper tape. Now that we have the zipper base stitched on, we're going to take our pocket lining panel, and with the line that you drew at the top, towards the top of your assembly, you are going to align the top edge of the exterior with your lining. You're going to clip that in place. And then what you want to do, you might need to use a zipper foot, because if you'll feel that the teeth are pretty close to this line. You're going to want to stitch right on that line and backstitch at the beginning and the end. When you get to the zipper pull, you're going to want to put your needle down, move the zipper pull out of the way to continue, again, so you don't warp the zipper shape. Now that we've attached our pocket lining, what you want to do is flip the pocket lining up and away from the exterior, and then flip the whole piece over. And here, this part is optional, but I like to do it just to make sure everything sits flat. You're going to want to take a piece of double-sided tape and put it on the wrong side of the exterior. Then what you want to do is flip this side down right at the crease. And that actually makes the zipper right side down against the table. And you want to make sure that you push this up against that seam. And now you can take off the double-sided tape wrapping. And again, just make sure you're kind of pushing it that way to make sure that it's folding right at this seam. So now what you have is the exterior wrong side up, the pocket wrong side up, and you have the zipper right side down against the table. Now what you want to do with the bottom of the pocket wrong side, again, you're going to want to put a bit of double-sided tape. And I also keep it closer to the seam because we're actually going to end up sewing it along the raw edge. So if you don't want to sew over your double-sided tape, just put it close to your stitch line. Now we're going to flip the pocket into place. So what you want to end up with is this part is going to be flat against the exterior. So you're going to hold it on the sides like this and bring the whole thing down. You end up with a little bit of raw edge here, which was part of your cutout, and here. And then if you look at the side, you have only one layer of pocket lining, one layer of exterior, and then a second layer of exterior. So this is to keep that part from getting too bulky. And again, I'm kind of pushing up that way to make sure it's nice and taut, and also make sure it's nice and even across here. And then what you can do is reach under and remove the wrap from your double-sided tape and press that into place. And you really want to make sure that this raw edge is right up there, right here in this fold, because next we're going to top stitch this part. So once you get that into place, you can clip it and then flip it over, because this is the part that's going to be visible from the outside of the bag. So you're going to want to do your top stitching on this side with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the fold. But again, don't start top stitching unless you know that everything is in the correct position and that this is what your assembly looks like at this point. We've done our top stitching, and I didn't mention earlier, but you actually want to draw a mark 1.5 inches from the edge and start and stop your top stitch there. So here I drew in the marks. If you're using vinyl, you definitely want to leave your thread tails long and tie them off on this side. This part is really not going to be visible. And the next step, and actually the final step for this pocket preparation, is to just put a strip of double-sided tape at the bottom of your pocket lining. You will want to bring the bottom of the pocket lining up to the wrong side of the zipper. And you're going to want to make sure that that is centered. And then you can take the protective wrap off of your double-sided tape. And then we're not going to stitch the sides yet. We need to keep those sides open for now. Make a center mark in the middle of the wrong side of the pocket. So again, this piece was 10 inches wide, so I'll draw it at 5 inches. And then we're going to use that mark to align it with the top panel. So you can get your top panel. And remember, this is going to be the bottom of that top panel. But for now, we're going to work with it with all of your marks at the top. And with your pocket assembly still facing up, you're going to take this part of the zipper and align that center mark with the center mark on your top panel piece. You're going to clip that in place. And again, you're going to want to maneuver so you can get the zipper pull out of the way so you don't distort the shape. And take your time, clip this carefully. And now again, you can feel where the zipper teeth are, and you're going to want to sew pretty close to the zipper teeth. So you might want to use a zipper foot or a very narrow foot and sew right up by the zipper teeth at about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I want to point out that what you have sandwiched here is the top panel, and this is the bottom edge of the top panel, then the zipper, then one side of the pocket lining, the part of the pocket lining that was down here. Everything else is out of the way. I did not include this step earlier in the video, but when you first attach the front pocket panel to the top panel, you can either do a top stitch or you can use DST or glue. But the main thing to know is that you're going to want to press this towards the top panel. So if you are going to top stitch, you're going to top stitch like this with the seam allowance towards the top panel. So normally in other patterns you would fold this up, but that's going to catch an extra layer of the pocket lining, but you really want to make sure this pocket lining stays out of the way and you can top stitch there. Now, since I didn't top stitch earlier, because I prefer the look without top stitching in that area, I'm just going to add double-sided tape. And I'm just going to press that into place. We've stitched the other end of the zipper onto the top panel, and now we can see the bag or the front pocket starting to take shape. This is what it looks like. Now the next thing you want to do is take this side edge and force an alignment with that 1-inch mark that you made. Clip that in place there, and then do the same thing on the other side. This makes the pocket zipper want to stick out, which is what we want. We want it to stick out a little bit. And then what you're going to do is top stitch from this edge over all of these layers. And again, it's 3 layers of exterior, so the bulk should not be difficult. And you're going to top stitch to meet the existing top stitching. And that is going to keep the zipper pull from going too far. Now we've finished the top stitching. And you can see how that encloses the zipper. And if you flip it over, this is what it looks like on the other side. Now we can work on closing the sides of the zipper pocket. Now a couple of notes. I like to stitch a little bit over the zipper teeth when I get there. But it will depend on your machine and whether you have a hump jumper to help get up over the hump. But whatever you do, you want to make sure that your stitches are not going to be visible from the front. So right now I'm going to flip this assembly so that the exterior is out of the way. And I'm going to try to flatten it here. And again, here, this is where I have the double-sided tape. You don't have to unstick that. You can just kind of press this part against your table and sew just like that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Get as high up onto here as you can, but don't cross this seam. Don't start sewing onto this part. So you can get up as high as you can there. And again, same with this. I'll probably just go maybe halfway here. And I like to sew from the bottom towards the top. So go ahead and close both those sides. Now we've sewn the pocket sides closed, and we're going to start working on attaching the side panels. First, you're going to take the side panel that has the strip of stabilizer, and you're going to top stitch across at 1/2 inch. Now we have the one side top stitched, and the top stitching is on the opposite side from the line you drew at the bottom. So we're going to bring over our front pocket area, and you're going to put it right side up. And you are going to take the side panel that has the stabilizer and put that on the left. And if you are paying attention to your zipper pull and where it is, when your zipper is closed, the stabilizer side panel is on the opposite side. And our pouch main zipper pull is going to be on this side when closed as well. So again, if you wanted to reverse that, just reverse these pieces as well. So we're aligning the top and side edges. The line you drew is at the bottom of the side panel. As I clip over this pocket area, I am separating these layers. I'm opening them up to make it a little less bulky to sew through. And we are going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the top just until this line. From the top to that line on this side, and again from the top to this line on that side. And now we have the side panels attached, and I choose not to do top stitching on the sides of the seams, but if you want to, you can certainly do that, but I wanted to keep this as simple as possible. Next, what we're going to do is finish closing the main panel. And what we're going to do there is fold up the bottom, which is going to become the top. You're going to open one side panel and you're going to align the tops first and make sure that the tops are perfectly squared and aligned. And when you get to the seam allowance, you don't want to open that up. And just keep going across, probably about midway. That way you make sure nothing ends up warped and out of shape. Then what you can do is align the sides, the side edges. Once you have the top aligned, and you're only going to do one side at a time. So once you have it clipped and in position, you can flip it over and sew from this side. And you're again going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the top down just to this line that you drew. So do this side first, sew it up, then we'll come back and align the other side. Now we have that one side sewn, and we're going to do the same with the other side. So start by bringing up this corner and aligning it with the top first to make sure you get a nice square result. Then once you have the top clipped in a few spots, then you can clip down the side. Then you can flip it over, and again you're going to stitch from the top down to the line with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now we have the sides stitched, and we're going to work on stitching the bottom. First thing you want to do, I've already done one on this side, is make a little snip. This is on the main panel part. You're not going to snip the side panel at all. But where you're going to snip is right at the bottom of your stitch line in, but don't go all the way to the stitch line. So stop just short of the stitch line. So here, just at the bottom, make a little snip and do that on all 4 sides. So again, right at the bottom, make a little snip right there. And then what we're going to do is bring these edges together, the bottom edge of your side panel with the bottom edge of the bag, of the main panel, which we curved up, and align those. And it doesn't matter if over here in the corner you're going to have a little bit of a bulkiness. That's what that snip helps with. But you're going to clip this in place. Make sure that's aligned well. Then I'll clip the other side in the same way. And again, you're going to stitch pretty much just right on that line. Just go all the way across there. When you close the bottom, you do want to sew from edge to edge, not just between the sewing lines. I also did a double row of stitching because I'm using vinyl that tends to show the stitches. So just to pull it in a little tighter. So when you sew, make sure you clip it all the way across, sew all the way across, and then you can actually trim a little bit more here. So I trimmed a lot of the bulk. And now you can take a look at your bag. Just turn it right side out if you want to take a peek and see how it's coming along. So that's what we have so far. And you've got the front zipper pocket. You have the back, you have the fold over bottom. And again, you'll be able to poke out the corners later when the bag is all done. Now we're going to start on the lining, which I already put my label on here. And if you have a preference of what side of the bag the label goes on, I will add some comments about how you're going to want to do that. So basically, the front of the bag that has the zipper pocket, in the pattern, the open side of your lining is going to go to the right. So if you're facing the bag and you see the pocket, the open part of the lining is going to be on the right. And you'll see what I mean here. We're going to make a mark here to leave part of the side of the lining open. So you can use that to figure out what lining panel you might want to put your label on. So on the side that you're going to leave the turning hole, on the wrong side, you are going to make a mark 1 inch up from the cutout and 1 inch down from the top. And what we're going to do is put the lining right sides together, and we are going to stitch all around with 3/8 inch seam allowance. But you are going to start your stitching at the top, stop here, back tack, then you're going to start up again over here, back tack, then you're going to come down here, go all the way across, and then up the side. Now we have the lining sewn, and I also wanted to show you a little tip that when I am sewing for boxed corners and it already has the cutout, I don't snip between the corners. Well, that one I did because I did that one separately, but it's just faster to just keep going, pull out a little slack when you're about to sew again, and then just snip it all at the end. And now what you want to do is press these seams open, especially this side. You want to press it open as though it was sewn, because that'll make it much easier to sew closed later when the bag is finished. Now we have the sides pressed and we have the open side over here, and we are going to box the bottoms. And the way you're going to do that is pick up the bag. I usually put one hand in so that you can make this area kind of form a triangle. And then you'll see where the cutout closes in on itself, and your pressed seam from the bottom and your pressed seam from the side come together like that. And you will clip that and go to the other side and do the same thing. So I have my hand in here, which makes the side form a triangle, and you bring together the bottom seam and the side seam and clip it. And then we're going to stitch right across here with 3/8 seam allowance on this side and also on this side. And once you have that sewn, you can just trim it down to about 1/4 of an inch. And I love the cutout that it makes. So at this point, our lining is done and it's looking pretty good. And we're going to work on adding the zipper for the final assembly steps. Now we're going to add the zipper pull to the single separated zipper. So this is the long zipper that we've already separated. And what you want to do is fold it in half with the teeth facing up and make sure there are no twists. And over here at the end, you're going to put the teeth together as though it forms a single zipper. And then using your method of choice, you are going to put the zipper pull on. And close it almost all the way. And then what you want to do here is just flip it outside so that you'll be able to draw a line there. Then what we want to do is make a mark right here in the center part. And what I also like to do is on the other end, to make sure that these teeth don't open up, I just place a little piece of masking tape. And we're not going to have to remove that. We're not going to have to sew through it. So you can just leave it right there. And I'm going to do the same with the smaller zipper. Just going to take a piece of masking tape, put it on the ends to make sure you don't lose your zipper pull during construction. Because when you're sewing the pocket, you're going to end up moving the zipper pull out of the way of your stitching line, and you just want to make sure that that doesn't come off. Now for this step where we're going to add the zipper, we are going to want our lining right side out, our exterior wrong side out, and then you're going to want your zipper ready to go with a piece of tape at the end with the zipper pull on it, and make a mark right at the center. I usually just use my thumb to kind of put a little bit of a backing on there so I can make a mark in the center. So for now we can put the lining aside. You want to unzip your zipper most of the way, and on the side that does not have the top stitching. So again, we're working with the side without the top stitching. We are going to start clipping the zipper into place. And it needs to go the right side of the zipper to the right side of the exterior, with the zipper teeth facing down. So I have my zipper like this, and I want to make sure that there's no twists and turns in the whole length of it, with the zipper teeth facing down, that tape at the top, so this is top to bottom, and then right side is here going to go against the bag, and then the wrong side is going to be here. So find your center mark and put it at the center of your side panel. Again, this is the side panel that does not have the top stitching on it. And you're going to clip that in place. And then you're going to follow one side at a time, and this is to make sure that you end up with an even zipper. So open up that seam allowance of your exterior and continue to clip until you get to the front. I usually put the zipper pull inside the bag. And once I clip all the way to the front, I'm going to come back and clip down this side. As you're clipping, make sure that you're not pulling the zipper. You want to make sure that it's resting without being pulled tight and out of shape. So now once you have everything clipped, and I usually do my last clips right here at the seam here that I open up, you're going to take your lining, which is right side out. The turning hole is going to be on the same side as your top stitching, as your top stitched side panel, and that's where the extra zipper is going to go, the excess zipper. So you are now going to tuck this into place and get the top edges aligned. Once you have it tucked in, you're going to focus on the end that does not have the opening. So you're going to take that seam and line it up at that end of the zipper where you drew the center mark, or I should say the center of the zipper, and the mark on the exterior. You're going to line up the center of that seam with the center of the zipper and that center mark and clip. And just like we did with just the exterior, we're going to do one side, always start at the middle and go towards this end. Start at the middle and go towards this end. That ensures that our zipper won't go out of shape, because you really want that zipper pull when it's fully closed. You want it to be right up at that curved end. So just go around and carefully unclip one at a time and tuck the lining in. So here the lining and the exterior are right sides together. The zipper and the exterior are right sides together. The zipper is going to be sandwiched between the lining and the exterior. Remember, when you're reclipping everything, make sure it's sitting nicely right at the top. You don't have to worry about what's going on inside the bag, but just make sure that this part, that you don't feel any tightness or tugging. Then what we're going to do here is at the end where you have your turning hole and the excess zipper, you are going to make a couple of marks. You basically are going to want to stitch from the center all the way around until you get to this seam. So where this clip is, make a mark there. And same on this side. And then with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, you're going to sew around. Again, do it in 2 steps. Start from the center, go all the way around to your mark, and then again start from this end and go all the way around to your mark. Now when I sew this on my flatbed, I sew with the lining side up, and I just go right in here. And then I flip it over to do the other side so that I can sew from here to here. Now that we have this sewn, what you're going to want to do is, and I find it easier to do if you pull the zipper part out, and again, this is why I really recommend taping the end so you don't lose your zipper pull. What you want to do is, with this seam open, you're going to want to apply some fabric glue or some double-sided tape and tape this down. You're mimicking how far down it's going to be based on the stitching. So go ahead and glue that down, let it dry, and then we'll come back to that. Once that's dry, you can take the clip off and turn your bag right side out through the turning hole. Once we have the bag turned right side out, you'll see where you had glued the lining down onto itself, and we're going to do the same thing with the exterior here. So just glue or use double-sided tape to press it down. We're not trying to attach it to the lining. We want to leave this opening because that's where we're going to tuck the zipper. So go ahead and glue or use double-sided tape to press this area down. Now that we have this glued and dried, we can work on top stitching the top of the bag. If you're able to, you're going to want to press the lining down, but just take care if you have a vinyl exterior that you don't melt your vinyl. And we are going to stitch only from this existing top stitching all the way around the bag and stop at that top stitching. You want to leave this gap here because we're still going to tuck the zipper in afterward. So I have a flatbed machine, so with firmer fabrics I end up having to turn my bag inside out so that I can top stitch with the exterior facing up. But this vinyl is pretty soft, so I'm going to be able to stitch it just like this. Now that we have the outside top stitched, we are going to cocoon the zipper. So you're going to want to grab a needle and thread that coordinates with your zipper. I don't usually match the color exactly, but I just use light thread for light zipper tape and dark thread for dark zipper tape. So you're going to want to take your zipper and close it. Then you want to pinch it together, pinch the tape together to enclose the teeth. So you're pinching the right sides together so that you expose the underside. And to show you what that's going to look like after we do some stitches is basically pinch that and then turn it over, and you'll see how that kind of forms a little overlap that will keep your zipper pull from sliding off. So what you want to do is, with this area pinched, you want to start sewing. Put your needle through close to the zipper teeth, but not on the zipper teeth. You're only going through the tape. And you just go back and forth a few times, probably for about an inch. I usually like to go about an inch. And then you can see when you press that down, you'll get this nice little, what I call little cocoon shape. So once you have your few stitches in, You're going to tie it off and snip your thread. Now we have the stitches done. And at this point, you are going to form the cocoon the way you want it to look, and then also tuck it in between your lining and your exterior. I like to use a chopstick to help kind of push the cocoon out into the position that I like. And again, the stitches you made should not be visible. And you can also open the bag a little bit more to play with it. Sometimes you might want more of a squared front, or you might want more of a curved front. But first I'm going to just tuck the zipper tape into that gap, and I'll be able to reach through the turning hole to get it. And then pop it back up. So here. So you can either leave it like this, where the zipper tape is kind of folded over, or you can flip the zipper tape out. I think it depends on what I'm doing, which look I want. Here, this is almost like the collar of a dress shirt, where it's pointing down, or you can fold it back onto itself and it's more like a shawl collar. So once you get it into place and get the look you want, you're going to put some glue right in here. And then what I like to do is stick a chopstick in, again through the turning hole. And here I usually put the wider end in. Get the zipper back where I wanted it. So again, if I had the glue there, I would stick the chopstick towards it. I'm also going to close the zipper a little so I can really see what it's going to look like. Make sure there aren't any bumps that I don't want to be there. Push that up, put that in, and then if I had glue, I would then, with the chopstick in place, I would clip it so that it can stick in the right spot. One thing when you're cocooning the zipper, you are going to want to flatten out this front part. And then you have a flat surface that you can apply glue to and get it down in there, and it will kind of match the shape of the bag. Once you have cocooned the zipper and you've glued it and it's in place, then we are going to install a rivet through the gap that is still open in the lining. And it's going to go right here along where you have your strip of Decaville light. And since I'm using a nylon zipper, I'll be able to punch right through the zipper teeth. But if you can't punch through the teeth, you can just move the zipper tape over to one side and punch through just the tape. But you just want to make sure that you're centered in here where you have the Decaville or the stabilizer strip. And I'm going to punch it about an inch down from the top. So I'm going to make my hole right about there. Now I have installed the rivet. Also make sure that when you punch through, that you're not punching through your lining. So once that is in place, you can pull your lining, pull out the lining hole, and sew this closed. You can either do it manually or just use a very small seam allowance on a machine, which is how I usually do it. Now once you have that stitched closed, you can tuck the lining into the bag, poke out all the corners, zip it up, and there you go. Now you have a great little pouch.